Today we are going to be wrapping up everything that we have talked about with the book Those Shoes. And today we're going to be talking about something that's really important, I think, to talk about and learn about and share right now, which is the word compassion. And that's going to be something that we talk about later in our lesson. But before we do that, we're going to review the plot of the book Those Shoes. Remember, the plot is all of the important details that happen within the text. And so on our screen, we see I'm going to walk through this with us. So we said all Jeremy wanted was a pair of those shoes. And what did those shoes look like first grade? Yeah, they were black with white stripes. And it seemed like everyone had those shoes except for Jeremy. And so remember, all of his friends had those shoes. They all thought they were awesome. And then when Jeremy's shoes fell apart at school, his counselor, Mr. Alfrey, gave him a pair of shoes that didn't look anything like those shoes. Remember that they were kind of silly looking. He thought it looked like a cartoon and they were little kid shoes. So he was maybe a little bit embarrassed. And everyone laughed at Jeremy's Mr. Alfrey shoes except for one person. And who was that one person who didn't laugh? Yeah, Antonio Parker was the only one who didn't laugh at him. When Grandma took Jeremy to the thrift shop, she was so excited. He was so excited to find just what he was looking for, those shoes. So remember, the last thrift shop they went to, he actually found a pair of those shoes for $2.50. But what was the problem with those shoes? Yeah, they were way too small for him, right? He was like curling his toes up inside, trying to get them to fit. But sadly, those shoes were just too small. Jeremy had to wear the Mr. Alfrey shoes again. One day he noticed that Antonio Parker's shoes were taped together and falling apart, just like his were. Oops. As much as he wanted to keep those shoes for himself, Jeremy listened to his heart and he knew who would actually really love those shoes. And it was Antonio Parker. Antonio was so proud to wear the new shoes to school. Then the teacher asked the class to get bundled up for recess, and Jeremy remembered the snow boots that his grandma gave him, brand new ones that no kid had ever worn before. As they waited in line to go outside, Antonio leaned forward and said, "Thanks." And so that was a quick retell of what our text, what our story was all about. Now, that leads us to our idea of our word today that we're going to learn called compassion. When Jeremy gave those shoes to Antonio and Parker, he showed compassion. And the word compassion, we have our definition right here, is being aware of someone else's needs and acting to help them. When we're compassionate, we show love, kindness, and care for others. So when we're compassionate, we don't expect anything in return. If I show an act of compassion to someone, I don't think that they need to do anything for me because I'm acting upon what I see. If I notice someone's in trouble or hurting, it's the act of understanding what they need and then trying to help them. It's compassion. And so we're going to go through a couple of situations here where we can learn what compassion may look like. So we show compassion for others when we think about others' feelings, their needs, there's that word we learned on Monday, and interest, not just our own. And so when we see people who don't have what they need in order to survive, by helping them and understanding that, we are showing compassion for their life. And so, for example, here, if we have a kid who doesn't have anyone to sit with at lunch and is looking sad and lonely, a compassionate thing would be to ask that student to come join you. "Hey, Joshua, come sit with us," because you are noticing their feelings. You are noticing what they need and then acting on that and helping them. We show compassion for others when we recognize when others are sad and hurt and try to help them feel better. So I see this a lot when we were together at school. If someone fell down or wasn't feeling good, you guys were able to ask, "Are you okay? Can I help you?" So compassion is similar to empathy, but it goes a step further. You are showing empathy when you're compassionate, but you're also acting upon what that person needs. And we show compassion for others when we try to imagine what someone might need or something that might help them without them having to ask for it. So, for example, here it says, "I have an extra pair of mittens. Would you like to wear them?" So this is when people may not show what they need, but we can anticipate that and understand. So if you see somebody who has a broken shoe, like in the book Those Shoes, Jeremy is showing compassion because he sees that his Antonio's shoes are broken and that he may need new ones. And so he does something very compassionate by giving away the shoes that he really likes. If we take a look at our next one, we show compassion for others when we respect others' differences and appreciate what makes them unique and special. And so that's when we include others and we understand that we are all different and that is okay. We show compassion for others when we participate in service projects and help our community. So, whenever we can donate our clothes, donate old toys that we don't need anymore, donate food, donate water, anything like that to help people in need is showing compassion. You're not expecting anything in return. You're doing it because you know it's the right thing to do to help people. We show compassion for others when we are giving and generous without expecting anything in return. And our reward is joy. And that's what we kind of talked about in the last read aloud that we did with those shoes is that when, like, let's say you give a really cool gift to your friend and they open it and they get really excited, that makes you feel good inside. Well, the same thing happens when you show compassion. You feel good about the actions that you did because you know it's helping somebody. And we all should be helping one another in order to help our whole society. And so I want you to think about a time that you were compassionate to somebody. How did it feel for you? How do you think it felt for the other person when you show that compassion? I want you to think about that. And I'm going to leave us on that note of what you've done that's compassionate. And in your Seesaw account, you are going to be looking at some situations where some characters are showing acts of compassion, and you're going to write what you see them doing that is compassionate. And I want you to think about this word, and I want you to think about how can you listen to your heart and show compassion and kindness today, because we all need compassion. Our world needs compassion right now, and we all need to be doing acts that help other people. And I know I can count on my first grade friends to do that. And I think our book, Those Shoes, was a great example of an act of kindness and compassion from one kid to another. So I'm excited for us to continue our learning together. And tomorrow, instead of a read aloud, you will have a virtual field trip menu that you can choose from. So I will see everyone later. Bye, first grade.